to discuss throughout the day. But let's now move to another conflict in the Middle East, and the United States continues to discuss a ceasefire proposal for a 60-day truce in Gaza. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt confirmed that Hamas has accepted the new proposal. We'll now listen in to what she had to say.
I don't think it's a coincidence that Hamas accepted this proposal after the President of the United States posted a very strong statement about this conflict on Truth Social yesterday. I would refer you back to that statement. As for this proposal that Hamas has now accepted, the United States continues to discuss it, and I'll let the President weigh in.
Well, this comes as a senior Israeli official has stated that Israel will not agree to a ceasefire unless all hostages held by Hamas are released. 50 hostages remain in Gaza, including 20 believed to still be alive. The demand comes after Hamas expressed readiness for fresh talks as mediators work on a new agreement for the return of both Israeli and Palestinian detainees. Meanwhile, in Tel Aviv, families of hostages held a press conference demanding that Israel secure the return of their loved ones. A father of slain Israeli soldier Itay Chen expressed fear that the hostages may disappear forever. We'll now hear what he said.
Today, there are 50 hostages that either are still alive and those that were killed that might disappear forever. And we have an obligation to those 50 hostages as family members, but also the Prime Minister has an obligation as well to those 50 hostages. And the Prime Minister, he has in front of him a deal. It's a deal that we wanted to be a deal for everybody. But he has an obligation, a moral obligation as a Jewish person, as the guy that was in charge.
Well, joining us to discuss these latest developments in efforts to end the war in the Middle East and in Gaza is Madhav Nalapat, editorial director of the Sunday Guardian, who joins us live from New Delhi. Professor Nalapat, as always, a pleasure to be speaking with you. The US saying that they're reviewing this ceasefire proposal, but Israel, for all intents and purposes, have said no to a partial release of hostages. Of course, not confirmed, but clear signs that they want all hostages to be released at once. How do you think the US will react to this, given that this ceasefire proposal is based off a framework that Steve Witkoff, the US envoy, has made and that Israel had previously said yes to?
Look, I would like to say that it's extremely unlikely that Israel is going to agree to a ceasefire until the Hamas is demilitarized and no longer presents a security threat to Israel. Israel faced an existential threat by that October 7 attack, and the Jewish people are not going to forget an existential threat, especially when they went through such horrors during the previous century. So in my view, it's unrealistic to expect Prime Minister Netanyahu to agree to a ceasefire short of getting the hostages back. And I think as a gesture of goodwill, if Hamas can do that and return all the refugees, whether they are unfortunately, those who have perished and those who are still alive. But I think if Hamas does that, possibly the Hamas can save itself, although not its military wing. Netanyahu is determined to ensure that the military wing of Hamas is dismantled and can never again attack the state of Israel the way it did so cruelly and so definitively.
Yes, Professor Nalapat, but before we move to a related development, of course, continued protests in Israel. We heard that clip from the father of a slain hostage talking about the need for a ceasefire deal and a hostage release. Of course, pressure from within Israel is mounting. Do you think that will have any part to play in whether Benjamin Netanyahu's government agreed to this ceasefire proposal?
No, I don't think so, for a simple reason that the majority of the Israeli population would like the military wing of Hamas at least to be completely dismantled. And quite frankly, as far as the Palestinian Authority is concerned, yes, it should take over Gaza. But the question is, as of now, Hamas will not allow it to take over Gaza, or Hamas will simply merge into the Palestinian Authority and rule Gaza in the name of the Palestinian Authority. So again, from that point of view, it's a non-starter in my view, because the Israelis are absolutely firm. Having gone this far, having frankly endured this much, they are not going to stop. And that is why we can see a human tragedy of terrible proportions playing out in Gaza, and where children are suffering. They're suffering from malnutrition, from starvation, and it's a very terrible situation for them. But the reality is, this is what happens to any part of the world that is ruled by a terror group.
Yes.
That part of the world, sooner or later, slips into this kind of terrible fate. So I'd again like to point out, in my view, it's unrealistic to expect Israel to back off before it succeeds in eliminating the military wing of Hamas. And Hamas, frankly, if it gives up the hostages, it has no cards left. It's got
Yes.
to give up military wing as well. So it's a catch-22 situation, which I don't know how it can be resolved.
Yes, Professor Nalapat, please stay with us. We're now going to turn